Hello, my name is Gaurav Sharma from Hitbullseye.com, and welcome to this lecture in which we shall study about one of the organs of Indian government, that is the Indian Legislature. Basically, the function of the legislature is to make laws, statutory provisions and rules according to which the government of that day can function. Now, our government as such is a federal sort of a government, quasi-federal, in which there's a state government and central government. So legislatures are also divided like that. There is a union legislature or the central legislature, which is called as the parliament, and then there are state legislative assemblies, which are given the function of making laws for that specific state. Now, the subjects are again divided by the seventh schedule, that is list. There's a union list and the central list, and the powers of both the central and the state legislatures are divided as per that list. Beginning with the parliament, our parliament consists of the president, Lok Sabha, and Rajya Sabha. So these are the three components of Indian Parliament. Now we shall study the basic compositions, qualifications, and how a person can become an MP or a member of Parliament. Let's just first go through the Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha consists of 552 members, out of which 530 members are elected from the states directly after every 5 years. 20 are elected from union territories, and 2 of them are nominated by the president from the Anglo-Indian community. As of now, in April 2016, the current membership is 543 out of 552. The qualifications of Lok Sabha as such are: he or she should be a citizen of India, he or she should have attained an age of more than 25 years, and he should be qualified by all other provisions which are provided by the Parliament. The term of Lok Sabha is 5 years, after which automatically there are elections, general elections, those are called, and we have universal adult franchise. That is, every citizen of India who has attained an age of more than 18 years is eligible to vote in Lok Sabha elections. The presiding officer of Lok Sabha is called as the Speaker. The Speaker is elected from within the members of new Lok Sabha. That means that after every general elections, a Speaker of the House is elected from within the members of the House. Elections takes place and the presiding officer is chosen. As of now, Srimati Sumitra Mahajan is the Speaker of the House. Secondly, there is the Rajya Sabha. The total strength of Rajya Sabha is 250 members. Out of those, 238 are indirectly elected and 12 are nominated by the president. And as of now, the current membership of Rajya Sabha is 245 out of 250 members, and 233 are elected and 12 are nominated. Now it becomes important. Rajya Sabha is called as the Council of States. That means the strength of Rajya Sabha is the representation of the states. The nominations or the representation of the state legislative assemblies within the Rajya Sabha is under Schedule 4 of Constitution of India. Now again, the qualifications of Rajya Sabha are as such, similar to the Lok Sabha one. He should be a citizen of India, but he should have attained an age of more than 30 years. And again, other provisions which are given by the Parliament, he should have been qualified by that. The term of Rajya Sabha is 6 years. Now, the difference between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha is that Lok Sabha direct elections takes place, Rajya Sabha indirect elections takes place, and Rajya Sabha is a permanent house. That is, it does not get dissolved, unlike Lok Sabha, which get dissolved after every 5 years. The term of Rajya Sabha is 6 years. Every member of Parliament in Rajya Sabha remains a member of Parliament for 6 years, and after every 2 years, 1/3 of members of Rajya Sabha retire. And the presiding officer of Rajya Sabha is the chairperson. who is also our vice president, that is Shri Hamid Ansari. Now, how does these union legislature works? How do they make laws, and what are the provisions, the processes that are followed? Basically, there are four types of bills which have to be passed by the parliament in order to for them to become an act and thus become a law. The four types of bills are ordinary bills, money bill, finance bill, and constitutional amendment bill. Ordinary bills are all those bills which do not conform to finance bill, right? Which do not contain any other provisions of Article 110 or 117. That is, it is not a finance bill. Therefore, it is an ordinary bill. Ordinary bills can both be can be introduced as a private member bill or a public bill. Now, the difference between public bill and private bill is that public bill is introduced by the government, that is by a minister. On the other hand, private member bills are introduced by a member of parliament who is not a minister. So that is a private member bill. And money bill, on the other hand, can only and only be introduced by a minister. The other provisions of ordinary bills are as such. Money bills can be introduced in either Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha, and both of them can be independently passed by both the houses. Money bill, on the other hand, can only be introduced in Lok Sabha, and it can only be introduced with the prior approval or the prior consideration of the President of India. Similarly, finance bill Article 117 and 117 third clause both conform to the both are finance bills but are different from money bills, as Article 117 also contains provisions apart from Article 110. Money bill basically is any sort of taxation. If the government wants to implement any sort of law, so money bill has to be passed, or any public expenditure, any removal of money, any withdrawal of money from the consolidated fund of India. So for that, money bill has to be introduced by the government of India. The finance bill as such are also similar to money bill, as they can only and only be introduced with the prior consideration of the President of India. Now, lastly, the Constitutional Amendment Bill is under Article 368. Constitutional amendment bills can be introduced in either house, Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha. The important provisions of Constitutional Amendment Bill is, like, if the government of the day wants to make any changes in the Constitution, so Constitution Amendment Bill is required for that. For example, the 99th Constitutional Amendment, which created NJAC, that is National Judicial Appointments Commission, which was subsequently quashed by the Supreme Court. But again, any change or any statutory change that the government of India wants to make in the Constitution Amendment Bill has to be passed, and there is no provision of joint sitting in amendment bills. That is, both houses of the Parliament have to individually pass the Constitution Amendment Bill. Now, what is a joint sitting? Joint sitting is when both the houses, that is Rajya Sabha as well as Lok Sabha, sit together to pass a bill. Now, why do they need to sit together? That is, there are three conditions in which a joint sitting can be called. Whenever the bill is rejected by the other house. For example, Lok Sabha has passed a certain bill, for example, an ordinary bill, right? And Rajya Sabha, on the other hand, is in disagreement with the house. So both one house has passed it, other house has rejected it. So there has been a deadlock. A deadlock has been caused. Secondly, when the bill is passed with amendments unacceptable to the house, Lok Sabha passed it, it went to Rajya Sabha. The Rajya Sabha also passed it, but with certain amendments, and further, these amendments were not acceptable to Lok Sabha. Therefore, again, a deadlock has been created. And thirdly, when the bill stays pending for more than 6 months. That is, if Lok Sabha has passed a bill and it went to the Rajya Sabha, but Rajya Sabha did not take up any discussion on that bill for more than 6 months. So a joint sitting can be called in whenever one of these three conditions is met. Now, a joint sitting is presided by the Speaker of Lok Sabha, and a joint sitting is called by the President of India. Now, there are certain special powers which are with the Rajya Sabha, as it is the upper house, that is Council of States. It can also authorize the Parliament to make laws on the state list, that is under Schedule 7. Schedule 7 divides the subjects on which state can make laws and the center can make laws. So the Rajya Sabha, by passing a resolution, can enable the parliament to make laws on certain subjects which lie in the state list. Right. The second power is the Rajya Sabha can make any of the all India services. All India services like Indian administrative services, police services, forest services, and if in future the government of the day feels that there should be one more service, all India service, then the Rajya Sabha has the powers to make such a change in the all India services. Now, how do the Parliament make laws? They have to be sessions. So there are three sessions in the Parliament: the budget session, monsoon session, and winter session. Budget session, as the name suggests, is dedicated towards the passage of presentation and passage of the budget. The monsoon session and winter sessions, both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha meet to pass certain legislations. There are a few terms which are associated with such sessions, as we have seen that summoning is to summon different sessions of the Parliament. Now, in order to terminate these sessions, we have adjournment sine die, we had prorogation and dissolution. Now, adjournment is to suspend the working of the Constitution for a specific period. The presiding officers can call for a reassembly after a few hours or a few days or even a few weeks. Now, every session of a parliament has many meetings. Each meeting has different sittings. So, every sitting can be divided into two parts: a morning sitting and a post-lunch sitting. Now, the presiding officer can adjourn this sitting as per the requirements of the house. Now, when a presiding officer adjourns the house for an indefinite period, that adjournment is called adjournment sine die. That is when Speaker in the case of Lok Sabha or Chairperson in the case of Rajya Sabha adjourns without naming a day of reassembly, then that is called adjournment sine die. Now, in order to end a session of the Parliament, that is, if we want to end budget, monsoon or winter session, which can only be ended by the President, that motion is called a prorogation. Now, when the work of the House has been completed, the presiding officer adjourns the House by using adjournment sine die, and after a while the President issues an order of prorogation, effectively ending that session. And also the President has the power to dissolve a House, which is called as dissolution. Now, dissolution can be done in cannot be of two types. Firstly, there is automatic. There is automatic dissolution of the House, which takes place after 5 years, when the tenure of the government has finished, and after that the general elections takes place. And on the other hand, if the government of the day fails to prove secondly, if the government of the day fails to prove its majority in Lok Sabha, then the no confidence motion is passed and the President is empowered to dissolve Lok Sabha. Just the thing to remember is that only Lok Sabha can be dissolved. Rajya Sabha is a permanent house and thus it cannot be dissolved. Now, each session of that house has certain sittings. Now, there are certain important terms which are associated with each setting of any session. There is a 0 hour, question hour, and there are certain specific questions which are asked to the government. Right. So, the member of parliament can hold certain ministers accountable for their actions, and through this they asked certain questions. Now, each sitting begins with the question hour. Now, there can be two settings, 11 to 1, that is called the morning sitting, and then 2 to 6, that is the post lunch sitting. The first hour is dedicated towards the question hours. Now, there are three types of questions which can be asked to the ministers: start questions, unstart questions, and short notice questions. Start questions are those questions which are marked with an asterisk, and the minister has to answer them orally. That means that supplementary questions can also follow. The second type is unstart questions. Unstart questions are those questions which can be answered in a written form. That means that no supplementary questions can be asked. The third one is short notice questions. Short notice questions are those questions for which a short notice period is given, that is less than 10 days, and they are to be answered orally. Now, there is also something called the 0 hour. 0 hour is not present in the rules of procedure of the parliament, but it is an informal device which is an Indian innovation. Now, 0 hour is dedicated to asking those questions which are not noticed or which are applied to the question hour, which are left in the question hour. So this is an informal device. So 0 hour is dedicated towards asking those questions which are left out. Government of India is held accountable to its actions. So these all questions become like sort of a sanction on the government. So the government is accountable for its actions, its policies, its rules, and so on. And as we have done that, there is a central legislature, union legislature. Similarly, for each state there is a legislative assembly, and there is a legislative council, and also the governor. The state legislative assemblies, again, they also legislate, they make laws on the subjects of the state list in Schedule 7. Legislative assemblies again make laws. Any minister can introduce ordinary bills, money bills, similar to those of the central legislation. Apart from that, there is a legislative council. And not all the states have legislative councils. The power to make legislative councils lies with the parliament. The parliament is empowered to make legislative councils. Now, the procedure of having a legislative council is that the legislative assembly of that state passes a resolution for establishment of a legislative council. Now, this resolution has to be passed by a special majority of state legislature assembly. Now, once this resolution has been passed, it goes to the parliament, and the parliament passes a resolution with simple majority, and thus a legislative council comes into existence. Now again, the procedure of passage of bills is similar to the union government. Only the subjects on which the laws or the statutory provisions can be made is different. And apart from that, once these legislative assemblies and legislative council passes a resolution, it goes to the governor, and the governor passes or rejects, or it's in the power of the governor to do exercise his veto power. Apart from that, there is a special status of Jammu and Kashmir in which it has both the state legislative assembly and legislative council, but it is not bound by state lists. There are only a few provisions which lie with the state government, but the majority power lies with the legislative assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. It is free to make laws on most of the provisions in the union list as well. So this covers the legislature part of Indian government. In this lecture, we had started what union legislature is, what are the basic functions, what are the compositions of it, and how it is important, what are the different types of bill, how they get passed. In the subsequent lectures, we shall cover the judiciary and the last organ of Indian government. Till then, good luck, work hard, and hit the bullseye. Thank you.